You're now live.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the February 8th meeting of the Clearview Accessibility Committee. Welcome, everybody. And I guess, Clerk Helmke is here today to talk about the accessibility plan for the elections. And I think that's pretty much the only thing that we have on the agenda, aside from the minutes. But anyways, approval. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda? Be it resolved that the Clearview Accessibility Advisory Committee approve the agenda dated February 8th as presented.
Okay, I approve.
Okay, Deb Hayward and Krista seconded. Any dissensions? Okay, the motion carries. Any disclosure of disqualifying interest or general nature thereof? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Approval of the previous minutes, November 9th minutes. Did somebody have a chance to look at those? That was the day that there was the communication from Innisfil. I think that was kind of the only thing that we talked about. Were there any errors or omissions? Okay, can I have a motion to approve? Krista? Councillor Broderick? Any dissensions? Okay, that carries. Oops, sorry. I have to get back to where I was. Okay, and the January 11th meeting was very short. Actually, we did talk about the accessibility plan for a little bit, I think. And Tammy advised us of the Mad River Park project. Any errors or omissions there? Can I have a motion to approve? Krista? Ted, second it? Any dissensions? Okay, the motion carries. Okay, so sorry, I split those up for you. Anyways, business arising out of the minutes. We kind of talked a little bit about the election plan last month. Sasha, would you like to make a presentation maybe and bring us up to speed?
Thank you, Chair Bronnie, and to the rest of the committee. Thank you for having me today. I know you guys got to see the accessibility plan for this election 2022 at your last meeting. You've had a month with it to review it and provide any feedback and comments for endorsement. I don't know if you guys also got a copy of my report. I believe that it was also sent out back at your January meeting. If you were on the committee during the 2018 term, just the end there, it is very similar plan from 2018, but we've made some amendments. Obviously for this election, we're doing a hybrid voting approach. So we're gonna have traditional ballots as well as internet voting. We were gonna have internet and telephone, but our service provider for the election, Dominion, is no longer providing the telephone option, which for clerks is good because the telephone option wasn't always the greatest. It was hard for the phonetics and to go through all of the listings. So we feel pretty strong going in with the internet and traditional ballots. So the accessibility plan for the election has been updated from 2018 to include the new traditional ballots that we have for this election. And we've also included provisions regarding providing accessibility support to candidates and third-party advertisers. So that means any mandatory forms that they may need, that we can offer them in alternative formats if they reach out to us, and just providing that extra support. We often think about electors during the election period, but we also have to think about candidates and other advertisers who want to participate as well. So those are the main updates. I use references from the town of East Gwillimbury and the city of Barrie, looked at their plans and made some updates to ours. So I think it's pretty strong going into the election this year. And as I outlined in my report, and I believe in the plan, this is a living document. So as we learn and as we go along, we can make updates to it, just to make sure that we're keeping up to date with people's concerns and feedback. So I look forward to discussing specific parts of the plan, and hopefully we can get some endorsement and maybe some feedback from today's meeting, and then I can post it on the website.
Okay. Any questions? Nope. Deborah, Andrew, or Ted? No. Okay. I guess the other thing that I was wondering about is candidates. Is there going to be any option with them for help from the municipality to ensure that what they're sending out has an accessibility component? Like if they're putting stuff on a website or whatever, is there going to be any opportunity for them to be able to make sure that their stuff is accessible? Just because you think about it, and they're really not in a position where, you know, we go to work and our employers making sure that stuff's accessible and stuff like that, but they don't necessarily have the tools to do that.
That's a great question, Chair Bronnie. So I've had training to make accessible documents. I've actually done multiple training, and I know a lot of staff at the township have done so as well. For our mandatory forms, I can tell you that I've been working on them last month, and they're on an accessible template. So that means using the proper color contrast, not using capitalized words, using proper heading formats in Word that will transfer over into a PDF version, using alternative text on any tables or pictures that we may have. And then there's always the option, if that's not working for the specific accessibility needs, that we can offer it in an alternative format or assist in reading out the form if it's a mandatory form, or allowing a support person to assist with them as well. So we are making sure that our forms are accessible in the sense of our training, but we're always open to alternative formats or helping a candidate or third-party advertiser in getting the information that they need.
Yeah, and I guess what I'm looking at is an electoral candidate being able to provide information to a constituent, right? And like they may produce brochures, or they may have a website or something like that. And is there ways? Now I know that you gave a couple of places where people could go at the end of the report. Will that provide them with enough information that they'll be able to put their stuff in accessible formats? Or yeah.
So as you know, we can't control the type of information that the candidates put out or the type of how they format their information, but we can definitely encourage accessibility and provide them with the resources to make sure that their candidate information is accessible, and we really will promote that during the election. Ultimately, it's up to the candidate to do that, but we are always a resource to anybody, and we'll send them to any ministry guidelines or helpful hints for candidates that we can provide.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Now my what was the uptake on the when people were calling in, like using the telephone voting? Do you know how popular that form of voting was?
I can only speak to the statistics that I got from the Township of Springwater, because I was there during the 2018 election, and what Dominion provided us. It wasn't a utilized election voting format. Because it takes a long time to get through, and often people would get frustrated going through the prompts because it would ask you about 3 times to confirm your vote. And especially with Clearview, when you have so many races where you have a deputy mayor, a mayor, and then your ward councillor, and then your school board support, it can take a long time to get through. As well as the phonetics, like the pronunciation of each person's name can be trying. And I know that some people found it hard to understand or to listen. So that's why phone just didn't have the turnout that internet had. I believe Dominion said in the last election, they found that maybe 5% in election, that was the average that actually used the telephone, which is why they no longer are supporting it.
Is that 5% of the population or 5% of the voting?
It's 5% of the voters. Yeah, they wouldn't have.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And, oh, what was the other? Oh, so as far as the paper ballots go, are those only going to be available on election day, or are they going to be able to come in at different times and do the election, like, and use the paper ballot?
Yeah, so we haven't made any announcements regarding any advanced polling dates, but I can tell you that advanced polls, traditional ballots will be used for advanced polls.
Okay, so what'll happen is the election time will open up and people will be able to vote kind of from a certain day until election day as far as the online voting goes. But as far as the paper ballots, they'll only be able to come in on specific days to cast that ballot.
That's correct. Currently, the clerk's department is looking at 4 possible dates for advanced votes for traditional ballots, with the option that there will be a couple booths set up for internet voting, because we know that rural internet is not the greatest in Clearview Township. So we are providing that service with the traditional ballots as well. So we're trying to make sure that we are across the municipality, because geographically we're quite large, as everybody knows. So we're trying to make sure our advanced votes are spread apart the municipality over those 4 dates.
Okay, so during the advance, oh, go ahead, Krista.
Sorry, thank you. I'd like to know, is there going to be time set up that for advanced voting and regular vote day, will there be certain times set up, like the first hour it's open or the first 2 hours it's open for those on-site voting for people with disabilities and accessibility needs, that they can come in like beforehand, not just waiting in a line, or have the assistance there being provided through Clearview, that if they need assistance, that it could be provided?
Anytime that we have an advanced vote or a poll open, assistance is provided for that full time frame. We can't restrict the electors coming in during specific times. And especially on voting day, we can't restrict electors only coming in during a specific time. It has to be open. Specifically voting day, it's 10 till 8 p.m. So, but we will always have the support there if it's needed during those times that we have advanced polls and then on an actual election day.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I think most of my questions had to do with you dropping the telephone voting, and I think maybe you've kind of answered those questions for us. Does anybody else have any questions? Okay, so the recommendation is, be it resolved that Clearview Accessibility Advisory Committee hereby receive the report dated February 8th for the municipal election accessibility plan for 2022 and endorse the 2022 election accessibility plan with the following comments and feedback. Yeah, and I think you've resolved most of the questions that we had. And I think some people will be happy with the fact that they can do a paper vote. Like they wanted to do, we heard that way back to the time when you were here before and we were mailing in ballots and they still had a problem with that. So is there any can I have a motion? And is there any recommendations that we want to add? Krista? And a seconder? Deb Hayward? Seconded? Okay. And nothing else to add to it? Okay.
And I say, if something comes up later on and you're like, oh, you know, that would be a great suggestion, feel free to email myself or Kayla. Like I said, it's a living document and we're open to learning and making changes as we go. So any comments and feedback, even after today's date, is very much welcome.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, communications from the chair. Kayla, is there anything that's come in?
I haven't received anything, Deb.
Okay, and as far as site plans or building plans for review, is there anything that has come? Okay, any projects in sight for 2022? Tammy? No. Hey, does anybody have any new business to offer or anything going on around town? Okay, just to let you know, I attended some training today at the local immigration partnership is starting their campaign, which is about It Starts, and it's about enlightening people to racism and discrimination for people with disabilities and people of different ethnicity and all of that stuff. Their campaign runs in March, and it's maybe something that we can kind of think about it. I just was introduced to it today as an ambassador. So there's a whole lot of resource material that I hope to be able to get some time to go over, and maybe I'll forward some stuff to you when it talks about disabilities, because there's a whole section about that and proper language and everything else. So just to kind of let you know that that's going to happen, that'll be happening in March. And so you may see the posters coming around with It Starts, and some of it has to do with immigration, but then there are other parts that have to deal with other parts. I think it's all about us all living in this, on this big planet Earth together and learning to get along more than anything. Okay, our next meeting is planned for March 8th at 3:30. If there's anything that you want to add to the agenda, you can let Kayla know, and we can go from there. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Nobody has anything? Krista and Ted? Okay, great. Thanks, everybody.